German Chancellor Friedrich Merz opened this year's Munich Security Conference with a message to the United States saying Americans are, quote, not powerful enough to go at it alone. Earlier today, the German leader met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The two leaders' central focus, the war in Ukraine. CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd joins me now. Sam, always great to have you. So a couple of things have happened there. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the Ukrainian president, was there, said that there needs to be a ceasefire, that only President Trump can pressure the Russians to do that. And if there is a ceasefire of maybe 2 or 3 months in duration, he would be open to elections. That sounded to me like interesting news.
It's newsy. I think it's a negotiating tactic. Zelenskyy is trying to negotiate a bit in public to his primary customer, who is President Trump, to a certain degree, and to signal that he's willing to make concessions to hold elections not early, but during the course of a ceasefire versus when the war actually ends. The problem is, who is Donald Trump actually listening to? It's likely Vladimir Putin and not Zelenskyy, and that was newsworthy. I think the bigger piece that I'm watching in Munich right now is whether we are at what the president of CFR, Michael Froman, says is a fork in the road when it comes to the transatlantic alliance. You have the United States showing up with a very different delegation than last year. J.D. Vance came in with a wrecking ball. Marco Rubio has a different personality. But there is certainly a message being sent by the United States that Europe should be going in alone, that Europe should be providing for more of its own defense, and that Europe is overregulated and behind the curve on so many things. And so the question is really whether the European leaders are using this Munich Security Forum to continue balancing against the United States versus balancing with us.
And the president was just asked upon his arrival near Mar-a-Lago this afternoon about Iran. He said the talks are going on and was asked, are you in favor of regime change? And he said something to the effect of it might not be a bad idea. And then he was asked reasonably by a reporter, well, who would replace the regime? He said, I don't know, but there are people. Put that in context with everything else that's going on in terms of military assets moving closer and closer to Iran.
We're actually having additional military assets move closer to Iran with one of the large military strike groups that was off the coast of Venezuela, now transitioning back aircraft carrier to the CENTCOM area of responsibility. Look, when it comes to regime change, President Trump clearly is supportive of that. We saw that happen in Venezuela. We have also seen a lack of a transition plan or a plan B in places like Venezuela. I think he is publicly wobbling a little bit on what his ultimate goal is vis-a-vis Iran, not only because President Trump loves to create an air of uncertainty. Right. He views that as leverage. For me, what's most important is what's happening behind the scenes on the diplomatic track, certainly, and whether and when there are covert action operations being planned to try to influence members of the regime or the military and security forces during this critical time. And CNN, Christiane Amanpour, did interview Reza Pahlavi about whether he would like to become the next leader of Iran. So a lot of pieces in play here.
Very quickly, there was a report that there was an attempt by the United States to covertly get Starlink materials into Iran. There was also a report I saw that Iran seized that. Do we have any clarity about what did or didn't happen in this space? Because it matters to what the Iranians hear or can transmit about what's actually going on in terms of protesters being killed by the regime.
We don't have clarity yet. I would imagine the United States is using covert action tools to try to let the Iranian people express themselves. So I imagine we'll hear more.
I'm sure we will.
Thanks.
And when we do, you'll be here to help us understand it.
Thanks, Major.
Sam Vinograd, as always, thank you very much.